Around on Friday, we went through the first half of the USL Championship, picking and choosing, looking to see what teams are qualifying for the USL Premier that is proposed to kick off in 2028. And with not a whole lot of news since the initial announcements, we're kind of left to kind of piece things together to see where we're at. And so we're at part 2 and catch you up if you weren't here on Friday. So far, our yeses from USL Championship, Birmingham, Colorado Springs, Detroit, and Louisville City fell into our yes category of ready to become premier teams, and we listed Hartford and Vegas as maybes. We're going to work our way through this second half of the list, and then there's an expansion team there at the bottom of the list, and then there's also some cities that are maybe trying to build directly into the Premier League with some bigger stadiums and plans in the works. And so that's the scene to kick off part 2 of our USL Premier check-in.
That last part you said about teams sort of like expanding directly into Premier is an interesting thing. Obviously, that's the way of MLS. You expand in MLS. There are examples of clubs that started as lower division enterprises and then were quote unquote promoted. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Also worth mentioning, as we said on Friday, the guy that's supposed to run this league, Tony Scholes.
Where in the world is Mr. Tony Scholes?
Is nowhere to be found as far as we can tell. He has not popped up in any media. He's not given any interviews. We don't know if he's got an office with his name on it down there in Tampa, which I'm assuming is where he will be working. So, again, and I just kind of, because we were talking about this on Friday, and I saw that over on the USL Pro subreddit, there was a post about this. Like, who do you think is going to be in Premier? And sort of the same things we're asking. And the first response from somebody was, I will talk about USL Premier when USL talks about USL Premier. It's gone quiet. It's very unclear what's happening with that. So I thought I'd bring that up, Rob. Go ahead.
All right, so we have 4 yeses and 1 maybe from the existing USL Championship teams. And so moving along in alphabetical order, we're going to the Miami FC. Are they a USL Premier debut season team?
So what we know about the Miami FC is they draw nothing right now at their college football stadium. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm kind of made a joke in the Morning Kickaround Discord server if Miami could handle hosting an Inter-Miami game at the same time as a Miami FC game, in jest because Miami, I think, lucky if they hit 4 figures there at the Miami FC.
Yeah, they struggle. It's a 20,000-seat venue. Rob, are you aware? I think there might be a change coming. I think maybe the agreement is expiring or something. But are you aware that Florida International University, the home of the Panthers, the stadium, 20,000-seat capacity where Miami FC plays their games, it's called Pitbull Stadium? Were you aware it's called Pitbull Stadium?
I was aware, and I heard the university might change their whole naming. I don't know. I don't think they're calling it Pitbull University, but there's apparently a push to rebrand.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Okay. Well, so right now, the Miami FC meets the metropolitan size requirement. They meet the stadium requirement. They meet some of the things that we have listed as PLS requirements that obviously there could be waivers, but better to have some clubs that don't need waivers. However, what do we also know about Miami FC, Rob, in terms of their stadium?
Marcus Rose just said it. One of our MK Ultras, the Miami FC is moving to Homestead, which is a huge sprawling development there, very, very far south of Miami, looking to relocate, perhaps to find new fans in a different population area, or it's kind of a dangle in a giant construction and real estate project.
I think it could be a lot of things at the same time. Let's be clear. There is a group. I don't know if it's private equity necessarily in terms of the labeling, but there's a group of investors who are trying to do something in Homestead that involves building out a bunch of fields for various youth sports to capture youth sport dollars, which we know are massive, billions and billions of dollars spent on youth sports in America. So the stadium for Miami FC seems to be part of this, like wrapped up in this idea of this bigger business. They are planning for 15,000 seats, Rob, which would say to me they are very clearly eyeing USL Premier. And I think Miami's in. Like, I think if they get this stadium built, even if they don't, I think because they don't need waivers on so many things, they will be a USL Premier team from jump. And even if they move to Homestead, which Luis Blanco is saying is not ideal, and again, it is down there, right? It is exurbs at best for Miami. I still think that this is going to be one of those teams.
So I am going to put Miami FC into our day 2 part 2 yes category.
35
this is a PLS
miles.
qualifying list, right?
Yes. We're starting with that, right? We're allowing for the possibility of waivers, and there are clubs that's like, well, they just need one waiver, or they could be building a new stadium, or whatever that might be. And I think obviously our goal is to get to 12 because that's what you need, again, according to the PLS, to launch a first division. 35 miles from downtown Miami is where Homestead is. 35 miles.
And I think it's funny, this is truly an American soccer thing, that the team that barely draws like 1,000 people, we'd put them in the category of they're in trouble, they might be closing down, but we are here speculating that they would be qualifying for the first division.
That's because another element that another element of the PLS that they qualify for, one of the requirements they meet is ownership's net value, net worth, right? Ricardo Silva, I haven't checked in specifically on Ricardo recently, but people know Ricardo Silva is one of the fly in the ointment guys in American soccer. He and Rocco Comiso were major parts of the NASL, of its push to grow, obviously of its challenge to U.S. soccer in court and things of that nature. Ricardo Silva offered, I think, Major League Soccer $1 billion for their television rights if they would institute Pro Rel.
Yeah,
which he knew was not going to be accepted. It was completely a PR play, right? He's trying to shake things up, rock the boat, right? So anyway, I think this is interesting because Ricardo Silva has clearly operated Miami FC as it's his pet project, right? It's an ego play to have a club, and obviously he wants to be part of whatever the next wave of American soccer, professional soccer might be, without being MLS, because he doesn't want, because he can't put an MLS team in Miami, and I don't think he wants to be MLS, so that relationship is not to his liking anyway.
All right, moving along from Miami FC, who is a yes, we're going to Monterey Bay, a team I'll admit I don't know a great deal about, to be fair.
So here's the story on Monterey Bay. Fresno was playing in the USL. Was that just Fresno FC? I know Fresno's trying again, and we've talked about that story that Fresno is trying again. Fresno FC was the previous club that played in the USL Championship. They died because of a lack of a stadium plan, and then the rights were purchased by the guys who launched the team in Monterey, California, Monterey Bay. So, and Monterey, this is a weird place for a second division soccer team, and an even weirder place for the idea of a first division soccer team. I cannot see Monterey Bay being USL Premier. The area isn't nearly dense enough population wise to meet any of that requirement, so you would need a waiver there. I don't think their stadium meets the requirements, and I don't know about the money behind them, but it's such a weird situation. I believe Sebastian Lletget is playing for them now and has a part ownership in the team. It's a weird one.
So we're gonna mark that as a no for now at the very least. And then a team up next in alphabetical order that just got a boost to their premier hopes. And New Mexico United, obviously they draw well, great ownership, but they've been in a baseball stadium. It's a big baseball stadium. It's in this scale, at least 10 to 15,000, right? But they just got good news in a legal battle in a venue that they'd like for a soccer specific stadium. So their run for first division it's got a little better recently.
Yeah, so I just see that there's a little bit of a back and forth happening in the chat. Shout out to Mr. Bob and Marcus who are going back and forth. Guys, be civil, be nice. All right. So the whole thing about the Balloon Fiesta Park, look, and I don't want to get into the weeds here on that because there's legal stuff, there's the NIMBY things, there's the lawsuits, as you said, and obviously people on the ground will have a better sense of this. I think New Mexico is probably lined up to be a Premier League club, a USL Premier club. I think they check a bunch of boxes, and then you have this. Of course, you have the stadium, right? They will have to have a plan. They could, I imagine, depending how close they are to getting their project off the ground with the Balloon Fiesta Park or whatever, U.S. Soccer may give them a waiver, right? Dan is saying that they come here for the weeds. So maybe we should do the weeds. I just what I'm saying, obviously, Dan, you know what I mean, is like it's tough for us to know where things are in terms of progress when it comes to lawsuits, when it comes to again, we know there's a plan. What we don't know is how close it is to being enacted so they can build a 15,000 seat stadium and meet all their requirements.
All right, so I've got New Mexico United as a yes, our second yes of part 2. Moving up to a team kind of embroiled in venue issues at the moment, Oakland Roots, USL Premier team.
Oakland Roots, man.
They had a game, I think, on Saturday. The game happened at the Coliseum on Saturday.
The game happened, and we have been following this saga of them being them facing a bill from Oakland, from the city of Oakland or Alameda County or whoever's operating the stadium, and all of that. I'm gonna say again, this is more about vibe than anything. They're an established club. They meet all the population requirements. It's a big market, right? That's what I mean.
Famous.
They have to figure out the stadium thing in the long term. I suppose that if you get to Premier, maybe you get into investment and then you're paying off the bill to play in the Coliseum, so you meet the requirement, et cetera, et cetera. I think Oakland has to be in, right?
Yeah. I was actually having this conversation about what the private equity injection into USL should be doing. And I think private equity, if they're here for the long haul, would be to help teams like Oakland Roots survive this spell and either prop them up financially or set up one of those temporary stadiums for them wherever they can and help one of their more established teams and brands and ownership groups in a kind of a hungry for pro sports sort of area in Oakland. They need to help them survive, because you'd think that you'd want them in Premier, like the club itself and the branding and the group and the population and the area that it represents. You want that in the Premier, but the short term, the here and now with their venue, puts that in danger.
Yeah, yeah, you're. I mean, there is a thing in my head where it's like, do you want to prop teams up sort of artificially just to get them over the line? Because then if you take away the scaffolding, it's such an
unusual situation right now.
Yes, right. I mean, and again, like you also get into this weird place of if you're bringing money into the league and then the league's money through private equity investment or whatever is being distributed in order to do something. And again, I know people have their opinions about private equity and whether that is there for the long term. But if you're talking about that, okay, well, Oakland needs money to do X and Y stadium situation. Does that mean another team isn't going to get money? Who did?
Well, I know it's a funky spot. I'm not going to say that's simple, but helping teams, maybe, if the money is that big, it's a have and a have-nots world, and those with a lot of money at disposal, maybe they can help a lot of teams.
Yeah, and again, like part of the thing about the private equity money coming into USL is, are these individually run clubs and independent? They're independent clubs, right? In the USL, that's one of the things that differentiates USL from MLS is that when Peter Trevisani says, I own New Mexico United, he's being factually accurate. He owns New Mexico United. And they therefore interact with the league. They they enter into a contract with the league to be part of the organized competition. And that's USL's product, is the organized competition. They don't own the clubs. They own the organized competition. And if Peter Trevisani or the Oakland Roots owners or anybody else says, you know what, this isn't the right league for us, a la Detroit City, who moved into this league from other places, they can presumably there's contracts and penalties and all kinds of stuff that will impact whether they will actually do it. But they could say, nope, we're taking our ball and we're going to a different league. Right. So then what is the private equity? How is the private equity money impacting where can you spend it if the money is in the league? Are you giving grants to clubs or are you buying a portion of the club from a league perspective? Now, private equity, Bell Tower, whoever owns part of New Mexico United if they inject money into New Mexico United to help them build this? I don't know. Like, I don't know those things. And maybe
and those are all things a press conference for USL could answer if there are indeed answers to those questions, right? And I've chuckled quite a bit about Simon Evans's reaction to me asking about a USL press conference. I'm going, I've never been to one. That was pretty funny. But so Oakland Roots, should I put them in the maybes or the yeses?
I think you have to put them in the yes for now. I do think you have to put them in the yes for now. I think it would be strange if they weren't in there, right? So, and again, tough stadium situation. Really, it seems like a big leap to just dump them into Premier with these questions. But as long as they are playing, and because there aren't clear 100% locked in major metropolitan areas, stadium situation sorted, all those things, I think you have to put Oakland in there to make the numbers.
Okay. I've got them in there. All right, moving right along to Orange County SC. What do we think of them?
Man, this is an interesting one. Long-standing club, like decent history. They've won this league before. They are obviously sort of in the suburban sprawl of Southern California and LA. So you have to say that they have plenty of, they meet the population requirement, no doubt about that. They play at Championship Soccer Stadium in Irvine, which is a pretty little venue, but it's like one stand, Rob. It's not. Now, could they throw up a bunch of other stands to make the 15,000? Because I think, well, maybe it's not one stand, but it's smaller stands around the other sides of the stadium. That's my mistake. You can't see some of these stands the way that the images are, but they're small. 6,000 capacity. So I guess you would be putting in big new stands if you wanted to meet 15,000. If that was the requirement, I don't think they own that stadium, right? Either the city of Irvine or the county owns the stadium, because there was that whole thing we had with the LA Galaxy a couple years ago, where the Galaxy were trying to swoop in and take the stadium for their second division team, for their USL Pro or MLS Next Pro team rather, and Orange County had to fight them off. And man, I don't know. Like, they don't feel like a first division team to me, but that doesn't mean they can't be.
So Andy, we have an expert, regular viewer, Andy, non-MK Ultra for reasons. There's been gifts out there, Andy, but he says Orange County's a no unless the ownership changes. Our owner is rich, but he's not $50 million stadium rich. And he also adds that the city of Irvine owns their stadium.
Right. So basically, unless you're saying we're going to buy the stadium and improve it and put 15,000 seats in, from an economic perspective, it's dicey. Now, again, like that could happen. That could happen when USL started going around and doing their monorail pitch with Justin Papadakis. That, they were never saying we want to build the stadium 100% private funds. I think in some cases they did talk about that, but a lot of cases they were talking about renovating, rehabilitating existing venues to be the home for a USL team. Maybe that could be a thing. I see Riverside Grove mentioning Greg Scott, who I do want to get on this show. I still can't believe we haven't had Greg Scott on this show. He's the guy launching a team in Riverside, California, which is Orange County is not Inland Empire. This is all the geography of Southern California, and mine is imperfect. But I believe Orange County is south of LA proper, and then you have Inland Empire, which is east of LA. Riverside seems like a perfect place for some sort of professional soccer team. It's just, will that be a premier team? And I know that's not on our list, Rob, but just because it's in the region and it's got mentioned by Riverside Grove, we should throw it out there.
Yeah, definitely. And then so maybe Orange County is one of those teams that pops up in the early iterations of promotion and relegation, PLS pending. But as far as the regulations as they stand for first division,
there's a lot of things I like about Orange County SC. They're not flashy. They're not, it's kind of hard to, they don't, I don't know how to describe them without it making me feel like I'm negging them. I'm not. I think Orange County is kind of a model of what a lower division soccer team in America can be if they're smart about how they operate. And we need more clubs like that. But of course, again, we can never get to a place of like, we're cool where we are. It's always, we've got to go bigger and grow and be ambitious and things like that.
Phoenix Rising, obviously one of the they definitely had some moments of excitement with Didier Drogba playing and being owner and various celebrity ownerships, and they've had their own stadium deals. What would you think of Phoenix Rising and the USL Premier?
Phoenix is 100% a city that USL wants to put a Premier team in. Absolutely. Yep. Phoenix Rising has stood the test of time despite always kind of having to figure out their stadium situation. It's a little shocking to me, and I don't know. I don't know what the state of their ownership in terms of ambition is. Like, I know it's the same group of people. Berkey Bakai was the main guy as far as I knew. Brett Johnson, who I think is also involved in Rhode Island is a founder. I don't know if he's still involved. I don't know. Again, the money is, because if you go look at their list of owners, it is long.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's changed over the years.
Yeah, it's changed over the years. So do they have the sort of wealth behind them and the ambition to go and figure out the stadium deal finally, like get it done? Because again, they've kind of done these modular stadium things in a couple of different places now. I think they've moved around a little bit. They have, and it's getting mentioned by Chris here, there is that other group or some other idea, and we did look at the insane AI generated rendering of the stadium that was planned for like Mesa or something. It was nuts. Apparently, I didn't realize that the cacti could get that big.
Yeah, vegetation really does grow 50 feet in the air.
Apparently it does. But that looming is interesting. I don't know that has anything to do with whether or not Phoenix should be a USL Premier team. Yes, I think the answer is yes. Right now, their stadium is 10,000 seats. So if you can get the ownership to stump up the money to put an extra 5,000 in, I think you have to do it. So yes.
So Phoenix Rising is our fourth yes of part 2. So moving on to our next USL Championship team, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Fascinating team, reigning champions. Are they a USL Premier team?
Yes. I mean, obviously they have a plan, right? Their ambition is, we want to be a first division team. Therefore, we are going to put more seats in our stadium so we can meet the requirement. Right? We've looked at this again. This is such an interesting looking stadium and such an interesting idea. Now, again, they're trying to work within their footprint. That our review of this remains our highest viewed video of all time. And that, I love that. I love that this is what they're doing. Like, hey, this thing is coming, USL Premier. We've been here. Riverhounds are how old? At least 15 years old at this point, I would bet. Maybe older than that. Somebody give me a date of founding. They've won titles. They've been consistently good. I think they draw pretty damn well considering their division and the stadium. Obviously, the views that everybody talks about the views. That's why you leave it open like this, right? That's why you don't figure out a way to put a stand on the river,
train tracks and the river and everything else that's there.
Sure, you can't. Well, I wonder if they could get air rights and build over the train tracks, which would be a pretty incredible thing. But again, you block the view. So anyway, my point is, absolutely, I think that Pittsburgh has to be in the mix as a USL Premier team.
All right, Pittsburgh.
1999, Bill says. I undersold them by about 10 years, or 15 years. So shout out to the Riverhounds who go back to 99.
Shout out to any team in the United States operating that has the 90s or earlier in their
born in the
founding
1900s.
Dates.
Oh my God, you're so old.
From the last century? My God. All right. So next up on the list is a place that we're familiar with and was the subject of the one of the most recent Pablo Torre Finds Out episodes, Rhode Island FC.
I haven't listened yet.
Team?
I haven't listened yet.
I caught up at work yesterday, and there's a significant connection.
Is it Dice? Is it there? Did they do something wrong? Kawhi's involved, right? That's what this is about.
Well, yeah, it's more of the spider web of the Kawhi Leonard thing, that there's an LLC and him connected that's RIFC, and various people involved in finding the public funding that eventually went into the stadium had, ancillary connections and had stammering answers when they got rung up on the phone.
Oh no. Okay. I mean, everything is all of that stuff is incestuous when it comes to investment. All that. I'm not trying to let them off the hook.
But that podcast is really good. The one guy, the Marlins like executive that he has on the show, the really like, super intense on New York type guy, he spells out the playlist for teams petitioning to get public money. Like they had like literally the scripting. And then so now when you hear those interviews, you literally hear the bullet points of what these sort of team execs do when they're petitioning, or actually basically paving the way for politicians to be able to say yes
Right.
to things.
Yes. Yeah. There's some icky stuff there that I don't really want to touch. If we're just kind of evaluating Rhode Island FC where they are, we know we've been there, we saw it. They want to put extra seats in to meet the 15,000 seat requirement. Their stadium is amazing really cool for that level of soccer in America. The fact that they got built is such a stunner for me. Obviously, Louisville's an example of this, and we're seeing more clubs build and things of that nature. But Rhode Island FC has to be in there, right? Does Providence meet the population requirement? Or are they going to need a waiver on that if that's an effect?
Yeah, so I put them in our yeses. Rhode Island FC, USL Premier, yes.
Well, I'm saying what's the population of Providence? That's what I was asking you.
Oh, my bad. I was distracted by Tim Local out there. I was reading.
I'm seeing that Providence and Warwick has 1.7 million together. That's Southern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So I think we're good. Okay, good.
Yeah. So I've got Rhode Island FC in the yeses, and probably one of only a few teams that already have the stadium plans in motion to reach the Division I benchmark is the next team up in the list, Sacramento Republic.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, there's no debate. There's no question, right? Net worth requirement met. Stadium, they're building that, so they're going to meet that requirement. They're in a major market. I mean, major by USL standards. I'm not sure what Sacramento's population is. They can boast being the place of my birth, so that's a good thing. Add that to the column of reasons to put them in USL Premier. I don't know. There's nothing else to say about Sacramento, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the easier ones to put in there. Indeed, especially with the new stadium plans in the works there. So San Antonio FC, would they be a USL Premier?
I mean, I think that I think so. I mean, I think, again, they check a bunch of the boxes already. I know the stadium there isn't big enough at the moment to meet the 15,000 seat requirement. So I don't know if you're looking at a waiver or if their ownership group, but I believe it's the San Antonio Spurs ownership group that own San Antonio FC, if they would be willing to put in it looks like another 7,000 seats to meet the requirement. I've been to that stadium. It's cool for what it is. I think there is some space to build an extra deck if you need to. So I think they probably designed it to be expandable down the line if and when that was required. So I think they probably have to be a yes, San Antonio.
Putting San Antonio in the yes category. And shout out to Harry. Hopefully, Harry, you're listening and doing well. One of our very earliest dedicated listeners. Harry is a super fan of San Antonio. So Harry, if you're still tuning in, hope you're doing well. But there was a story out of San Antonio last week that we didn't cover on the show, that the pressure is mounting on San Antonio and the Spurs group to pay a non-MLS expansion fine. Apparently, part of the provision there was the news out of Express News here. The Spurs organization will pay the city of San Antonio and Bexar County a penalty of $2.6 million because it failed to lure MLS to Alamo City, a requirement under a decade-old soccer stadium deal.
Yeah, I was covering this story on the United States of Soccer, my old radio show. It's Bear County, by the way, Rob. I know you wouldn't know that. I didn't know that either. It's Bear County.
Silent X?
It's a silent X. It's Bear County. That's what I've been told. Bear. They have judges, and I can't remember the specific judge's name, but they have judges in Bear County. And when they say judge, they don't mean somebody who sits on a bench and decides court cases. They mean basically the county executive is called the judge of Bear County.
Not Judge Dredd.
I specifically remember. No, I doesn't wear a helmet as far as I'm aware. That specific judge was very upset about the way the whole MLS thing played out, because if you recall, San Antonio was angling for MLS. That's why I've been to San Antonio twice. One of those trips was because they brought me out to talk about their plans to go MLS, right? They were very much in a public relations, public media, a media relations place. And they brought me out, they paid for my trip and all that stuff. They obviously didn't get it, in part because who brought his team from Columbus and basically pushed MLS into giving him a team in Austin. So the fact that Anthony Precourt got a team just up the road in Austin basically precluded San Antonio from getting an MLS team because at the time, I don't know if they could both support one. They're very close, right? It's a little bit DC Baltimore, and maybe it's not fair because maybe San Antonio could, but it seems as though that's why San Antonio wasn't going to get MLS because Austin did. And that judge is very upset. I think they have to be Premier. I don't know about the fine, I don't know about that stuff, but I think San Antonio has to be in our list.
All right, I've got San Antonio on the yes section. And then next up, an interesting one, Sporting Jacks. New this year, have been playing in a temporary venue, I think a big high school actually, right? But they have plans for a 15,000 stadium in amongst a whole new development district in a nearby St. John's Town Center. And we've covered this a bit in the past on the show. And so there were another one where it's like the stadium could happen and they could be a shoe-in with a shiny new 15,000 stadium. But right now it's a modest, team on the field, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like
practice.
There's a lot of ambition there. They seem to check all the boxes on paper, but it's not finalized to the point of like, yep, we're doing this. It's done. Everything's good. Check, check, check. For that reason, I mean, man, I think for that reason they can't be on the list.
Should we put them in maybes or just a no?
I think it's got to be. Well, I think they're playing in a college football venue right now. Rob, is that right?
Hodges Stadium on the campus of North Florida.
Yeah, and Hodges Stadium does seat enough to meet. 12,000 is what I'm seeing. So they play in a college football stadium that is, again, basically one giant stand. It looks like a high school stadium. You're right, because it's one giant stand, and on the other side, I think, is a smaller stand. I don't know about one of the things that's required is the stadium has to be enclosed. Like, it has to have controllable ingress and egress, and that seems dicey in that stadium, if you ask me. I don't know. I mean, obviously they do it for football games. It's not impossible to control that. But I can't say, yeah, there's a tracker on that stadium as well. American Groundhopper is pointing out. I can't see them right now until they get that stadium under construction, and then you can say we can see the future. I think so. No, I think no.
Oh, all right. I typed it in the maybes, but I'll remove it from maybes there.
I mean, it's maybe because it's Jacksonville, and that's about it. What else do they have going for them that makes you think, oh, that's a team that belongs in a first division league?
I mean, they've got an NFL franchise that's not to be discounted.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
As first division as it comes.
It's a major market, but the team itself, again, without a stadium, like the reason we're putting Sacramento in the yes category is because Sacramento has their stadium plan already done. They've got a history of being one of the highest attended teams in that division, right? They've got ambitious ownership behind them.
Pedigree,
yeah. I think it's tough to put a team with so many unknowns like Jacksonville on the list.
Moving along, Tampa Bay Rowdies, one of the most successful teams at this level and one of the most long-standing brands.
As long as they can meet the stadium requirement or get a waiver, yes. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
It would be crazy if Tampa Bay wasn't in the first division for USL Premier when they launched. Crazy.
Yeah, it would be. Just, for namesake alone, and they have a quality stadium and a great experience from what I know. I really hope that we make it down there, and we've got some ultras down in that area as well. But so I've got them on the list, and so of teams that exist and are already operating.
Well, let's
yes,
just because Andy's in the chat, I just want to acknowledge him again. I don't know why Andy's not an ultra. Feels like he is an ultra, but anyway, the Tampa Bay Sun have that plan to build a stadium, Rob, right?
Yep.
I don't know where that is. Do we know where that is at all? That was going to be the not only a stadium,
because there's an Ybor City plan, and there's a lot of different things swirling around out there. So I think I'm I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, this is a 15,000 seat stadium plan, multi-purpose development. It would also be the headquarters for USL because Tampa is where USL is based. This is the one that's in that Ybor City location, like right on the water. We looked at some of these renderings. They're incredible. But again, it seems as though I haven't seen any progress. It's been a year since they made this announcement, June of 2025. And I haven't seen, and maybe I'm just missing the news, but I haven't seen any further progression on this plan. So anyway, just throwing that out there.
And so for teams that are already operating out there, we have as the yeses for the debut USL Premier sides when that league launches in 2028. We have Birmingham, Colorado Springs, Detroit City, Louisville City, Miami FC, New Mexico United, Oakland Roots, Phoenix Rising, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, Rhode Island FC, Sacramento Republic, San Antonio, and Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Okay,
but you'll see here on 13. That's decent, right? That's decent. Some might fall off here and there as time progresses. Obviously, not everyone on 100% solid ground here. And then in our maybe category of Hartford, Vegas, and Jacksonville. But you'll see here on this graphic, Atletico Dallas. And as of right now, they are set to start play next year in the USL Championship. Do you think that they would be a USL Premier day oneer?
Yes. In fact, I think that's been the plan from the beginning. I think that, their birth is predicated on the idea that they're going to be a USL Premier team. And obviously, there's no issue with the capacity of the stadium. It's not a good fit. It's too many seats for them. We know that. And Chicharito Hernandez will help with some of that in terms of selling tickets. And people we know in Dallas have been telling us, and we saw it in the Discord, like the explosion of media interest around Atletico Dallas has been immense after the announcement of Chicharito Hernandez coming to the club. So they did something to get the heat they need to make people aware of their existence in Dallas. Hopefully they'll draw a significant number of people. I don't even have a gauge on that when they start next year, Rob. Like, I don't even know. 10, 15? I have no idea what their level should be in a stadium where they can put as many people as they want. Basically, it's almost like an unlimited situation. Now, they do want to control some things, limit costs. You obviously aren't going to open up the entire building and have people climbing up to the top of the Cotton Bowl to watch your team play. So there is that. But that's a giant market. I think a lot of people in USL, the people we talk to at Atletico Dallas, even though they're not trying to be antagonistic with FC Dallas, they see a huge gap in that marketplace for soccer fans, and they want to fill it, and that would make them USL Premier candidates.
And yeah, FC Dallas also a little bit vulnerable with their capacity limitations that they have in this multi-year reconstruction of their stadium there, which is also puts them at a little bit of a handicap during this big push Atletico Dallas is making, because they're hitting all the PR moves right now. And I've seen international outlets covering Atletico Dallas signing Chicharito. And so obviously that definitely did what it needed to do. We'll see if that translates to on the field, but he's definitely done the job there with that PR last week of that announcement. And so we're at 14 right now, but I will note that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 teams with like asterisks as far as they're not on solid ground right now. And I hope that they are able to last until 2028 and be on solid ground and be big time and future contributor to the USL and what they're trying to do. But there are other teams out there to add to this list that could be building to go directly into the league. And one of the videos that we talked about was the brand reveal for Oklahoma City. And you have to believe that they are gearing towards being in the top possible league.
You say that. And I agree. They feel like they're doing all the things necessary, but that stadium is not going to be 15,000. So you would have to give Oklahoma City rather a waiver for stadium capacity. I'm not saying that that's a reason to keep them out. And again, I understand everybody wants to argue about whether the standards are correct or not. Why wouldn't you let a team with that ambition in Oklahoma City, building a brand new stadium, be in the first division, even if they don't meet every requirement? I'm just saying, again, there might be a limit to what U.S. Soccer is willing to do in terms of waivers. And all of this has to be negotiated with the possibility, with the likelihood, with the plan to bring promotion and relegation into this.
And so, are there any other teams out there that you'd like to talk about that are in that same sort of area, or maybe they have a more modest stadium now that we've discussed in the past? It seems. I mean, there's the Space Coast project. What were they shooting for? Do you think?
I think I mean, we'd have to go with double check. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think most of those stadiums are looking at 10 to 12 as their capacity for the most part. I mean, footprint wise, I think it's going to be tougher for them to build 15. There, obviously, again, some of those are possibles, but so, I'm seeing in the chat, one of the discussions is, all right, so you populate a first division. What does that mean for the championship? Because now you're taking a bunch of teams out of the championship. Now, championship right now is 29 teams.
No, not that many. It was, if you look
25,
at that graph.
sorry, 25 teams. So I missed it by 4. 25 teams. And how many of
we took away 14 just then.
Okay, so now you're down, you're down to 11 teams. You're going to have to find a couple. And look, I think there will be some of those new expansion teams that will go to the championship to fill those slots. It could also be that a couple of USL League One teams are ready to move up and become championship teams. And again, you're trying to do pro rel anyway, so you're gonna have to get your clubs ready for that to be able to survive. And I saw somebody ask, don't they need to prove? I think it was Dan. Do they need to prove that they can handle relegation? Right? Like, don't these clubs need to prove that they can handle relegation? Well, what about promotion? Because there's more costs that come with going up a division.
Zach
right?
bringing up RIP NCFC. They also put that out in the ether that they'd come back with a stadium and a Premier.
I forgot about that.
Move.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think you cannot discount the possibility that North Carolina FC comes back and tries to push their way into Premier. And again, I think that's what they were
super
aiming
cynical,
for.
but yeah,
it's weird. It's a weird one because they're out of sight, out of mind right now. But yeah, we have to mention them. And by the way, again, if you're USL, are you looking to just meet the bare minimum to start the league? 12, your 12 strongest candidates, and then as I think the idea would be, and they may even have laid this out initially, right? You start with 12, and then you're adding, and that kind of means there might not be relegation for a little while. Because what you do,
I feel like there's like at least a 3-year buffer there.
Yes, right. I think they might have talked about that. Right. So
you're going to have a Premier team for 1 year and go down right off the bat. That'd be wild.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So you'll have Premier launch with maybe 12 teams. We've identified 13 possible. Then there's the expansion teams and that kind of expansion projects, right, that could come in. So maybe you start with 12. Then you're like, again, 3 or 4 or 5 years because you want to get up to what? 18? You have to add 2 within the next 3 years. So you know that. But then you're probably talking about, getting to 18 or 20. And before you even say, all right, now you can be relegated. And
then does that then stretch the championship? If the championship is smaller, there's like not conferences. So they're probably going more national at that point if they're a smaller league than they were before. And then all of the, they're talking about a much bigger third tier in the USL League One. Like that has to have a massive expansion too.
I mean, that's what Dan's talking about, logistics, what you just mentioned. 12 teams across 48 states, right? And again, the requirement is you have to cover 3 time zones, Eastern, Central, and Pacific. Phoenix is a mountain time zone city, right? So Phoenix could be in there. Colorado Springs, we talked about them on Friday. They could be in there, but you're going to need to have those other 3 represented. You know that. So you know there's going to be coast-to-coast travel. In year 1, because you're only 12 teams, you're probably doing single table, even if you're doing playoffs at the end. So you're coast to coast. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and well, definitely this is going to be something, unless USL starts, coming out with a lot of news and whatnot, we're going to have to continue kind of like speculate and put the puzzle pieces together of what this might look like here. And it's supposed to launch in just 1.5 years. How about that? It's coming ever closer, and lots of details to come and are unanswered. So we'll cross our fingers. But one more time, our list of yeses: Birmingham, Colorado Springs, Detroit, Louisville City, Miami FC, New Mexico United, Oakland Roots, Phoenix Rising, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, Rhode Island FC, Sacramento Republic, San Antonio, Tampa, and Atletico Dallas. But who knows who falls out of business and who pops up out of the ether in the meantime. It really is an uncharted territory here.
Yeah, and just like we can kind of think of this as a break here, and as we hit a couple of news items, and I know I want to talk about MLS for just a second before we wrap up the show. I know we're in overtime already, extra time already. I mentioned Fresno and the rights for Fresno FC being sold to Monterey Bay and that being a team in the championship. Fresno wants to. They're trying to figure out a team, and they're working on something. And I guess we just had, we've got the continuing. Oh, they're in some agreement with USL. Who knows where that is? I don't know if there's any new information on that, but Fresno is a city you need to keep an eye on, because I think that's a big enough market that they could be a player in some sort of division USL wants to run. Somebody mentioned USL Iowa. We had some movement on that this year in the last couple of months. Haven't seen any further traction there. And then I think this should probably be a USL League One team at best. But Santa Rosa, California would also like to have a team or something, but they're having trouble finding someone to foot the bill and be the owner. So just a couple of notes there on soccer under construction kind of stories, Rob.